Welcome to Joy Meets World. I'm your host, Joy Yugi, and on this podcast, I'm sharing my adventures traveling around the U.S., visiting our national parks with my dog, Quincy. Today, I'll be talking about my visit to Crater Lake National Park. So, the last place I left off was at Redwoods National Park, which is in northwestern California. Specifically, I was staying in a little town called Trinidad, California, which is about 20 minutes from the entrance to Redwoods National Park. From Trinidad, I drove to Medford, Oregon, which is an hour and a half from Crater Lake National Park. The drive was 170 miles in about 3.5 hours, so not too bad. Oregon is exactly what you would think it would be. Rainy, misty, foggy, really, really green and humid and wet in the most beautiful way. Fun fact, Oregon is one of 2 states where you are legally not allowed to pump your own gas. There are attendants that pump gas for you. The other state is where I was born, New Jersey, and where I often go to visit. You're not allowed to pump your own gas in New Jersey too, or either. In Medford, Oregon, I stayed in an Airbnb that is a tiny house that was next to the host's own house. It was really cute and a fun experience to stay in a tiny house. It was modern, it was clean, it was updated, so it was nice to just have a small space to ourselves, and pretty quiet neighborhood, pretty quiet area. The park, Crater Lake National Park, again, it was an hour and a half drive from Medford, but it's one of the closer towns to the national park. The park was made a national park in 1902. And of course, I was going the first week of March, and so technically that's still winter in Oregon. Definitely up in the mountains where Crater Lake National Park is. And so while there was no snow in Medford, Oregon, and no snow for most of the drive, as I got closer to Crater Lake, first of all, lost complete service for about an hour and a half, zero service on a cell phone. And then it was snowing, not very hard, but definitely snowing a good bit as I drove on and off. And then, they close all the roads to Crater Lake during the winter just in anticipation of all the snow. And, they're not going to clear it every time it snows. That's just a lot of work. But they do keep one entrance plowed all winter long, and so that's the entrance that was closest to Medford. That's the entrance that I went to, and you could tell there had been a lot of snow because of how much was piled up on the side of the roads from the plows. So when I approached the ranger station to present my parks pass and pay my fee to enter, essentially, it was snowing very, very hard. And the park ranger who took my park pass just gave me a pretty strict warning that I was welcome to go up to the park, but I should have tire chains or snow tires, and I don't. And I made that clear to her that I didn't. And she said then I had to proceed at my own risk, and that if I got stuck in the snow or I needed to call a tow truck for any reason, that my insurance company probably wouldn't pay for it. And she was pretty serious. I don't know if it's just because park rangers are so just in their little bubble, in their little world in the park that they're in. And so, they take everything very seriously about that park, or maybe, they'd experience that a lot where cars or really vehicles that should not have been on those roads in those conditions have gotten stuck, and then people have complained about the cost of the tow truck. So, not sure what was really going on there. She also let me know that I probably wouldn't be able to see Crater Lake once I drove up to the viewpoint. So, kind of a negative greeting at the entrance to Crater Lake, but again, maybe they're just trying to cover their tracks and set expectations clearly. It was a 7-mile drive up to the visitor center and the Crater Lake viewpoint that was open. Pretty easy drive, slow speed limit. They do have a post office up there, which some national parks do have. And this one is pretty big, so it makes sense. And you can go up there even, when it's snowing. They welcome you to go up there to snowshoe or just to hike in the snow. No trails are cleared, so you kind of have to go at your own risk, so to speak. The lake itself was definitely worth seeing. Oh my goodness, it was so beautiful. It was so beautiful. It's hard to put into words just how majestic it looked. The color is this deep blackish blue shade that you just can't comprehend that this water is this color. And it actually gets its color, its famed color and clearness for a very specific reason. So you have to back up and know the history of Crater Lake to understand why it's there and why the lake is that color. So about 7,700 years ago, there was no Crater Lake. The area, essentially the rim around it, is the rim of a mountain that was there, Mount Mazama, which was 12,000 feet high. And so the current rim formed the base of the mountain, and there's a mountain, that's out on top of it. Well, it erupted about 7,700 years ago, and in that eruption, it weakened the outer ring, essentially, and it made the mountain collapse inward, forming the basin that eventually became Crater Lake, and they call it a caldera. And then, there was more volcanic activity through the next couple of years, which formed this kind of island in the middle of the caldera, forced up earth and mountain, and that is what is called Wizard Island, which sits kind of off to the side in the lake right now. So that's how it was formed, and then over 700 years, just the rain that fell, the snow that fell and melted, over 42 feet of snow falls every year at Crater Lake. That all melted to form a lake inside the caldera. So it's all rainwater and melted snow. It's not spring fed, so there's no runoff. Nothing runs into the lake. No streams, no rivers, no springs. Nothing feeds the lake. It is all snowmelt and rain, which is similar to how Lake Tahoe is and why Lake Tahoe is so clear as well. So because it's not spring fed, it doesn't, when you think about streams or springs feeding a lake, they run downward and they bring a lot of dirt and silt and other debris with them, which makes the lake water, the end point, cloudy. And since there's none of that going on, it's just pure snow and rain, the lake is incredibly clear and free of the silt and the dirt. Crater Lake is the deepest lake in the U.S. and the 7th deepest lake in the world. It's 1,943 feet deep. And what's really interesting, it stays pretty much even at that rate, and it doesn't gain or anymore because of evaporation and then seepage. And what's crazy about the seepage is that about 2 million gallons of water an hour seeps into the walls. That doesn't seem right. I wrote that down, but that's what it said. It seeps into the walls and it gets refed by, the snow and the rain that's in the region. But they can't tell, even if that 2 million number is wrong, which I know I read that on the National Parks page, but the seepage that goes into the rocks, they don't know actually where it goes, because there aren't they've done studies to figure out okay, it's escaping through the rock, but they don't know where it goes because obviously the rock can't soak it up, and there are no cracks or passageways or anything like that. So they don't understand, they know it seeps out, but they have no idea where it goes, which is insane. They just can't figure it out. Other things to do at Crater Lake that you can't do in the winter, but can do in the spring and the summer, which I'm completely going back for because it's an amazing place, and I'd love to get to do this stuff. So Rim Road, like it sounds, it's 33 miles and it goes around the top of the crater, around the mountain rim essentially, and there's tons of stuff, hikes and things to see off of that rim road. There's frozen volcanic ash, there's waterfalls, there are hikes, obviously views, so that would be really cool to do. Also to get out on the lake itself and kayak or boat, and definitely get over to Wizard Island and check that out. So those are things I did not get to do this trip because of the winter time, but I would love to go back in warmer weather and do them. And if you're going in warmer weather, make sure you do. So loved Crater Lake, loved everything about it. If you've been there or you have any other questions about it, my visit, you can go to my Instagram page at Joy Yugi and just leave a comment on any of the posts or the reel for Crater Lake, and we can chat and I can address it in my next podcast. If you like to watch podcasts or you're a visual person, you can always watch me on YouTube. All of these are on YouTube. I would love it if you could subscribe to the podcast, rate it, and review it, because that really lets me know what you like about it or what I could improve, what you don't like about it. So that would be great if you could do that. Until next time, I wish you happy travels wherever life is taking you.